Welcome to Spiritually Raw. We expose and explore controversial truths, myths, and theories surrounding the spirit world. Guests include QAnon experts, investigators, debunkers, and skeptics of the supernatural, unexplained, and flat-out unimaginable. Content discussed on this show is not necessarily the opinion of the cast of Spiritually Raw, and topics quite often are for mature audiences only. This show is not intended to replace any medical, financial, or legal advice and is for entertainment purposes only. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, it's Wednesday, February 4th, 2021. I'm 67 years old. I'm still doing landscaping because I have to, because of those things anyway. But I do really heavy work. I don't look behind me. That's a wheelbarrow full of 150 pounds of fertilizer, which I got to put out in that belly busting thing. And normally, any other time, if I weren't taking the hemp work CBD, I wouldn't be able to move at the end of the day. So I'm telling you, it really works. It's really real. It's hemp works, like with an X, like Kathy with a K. It's good stuff.
Hello, everybody. How are you? And welcome to Spiritually Raw. We hope you woke to the most miracle morning and are also having the most fortunate day today. And thank you so much for your energy exchange with us today. So do you remember that smiling face over there?
How could you possibly forget?
Do you remember that smiling face? Russell-J Gould, a.k.a. the Chief,
Colin
is back.
Gould.
Colin Gould. Forgive me. You'll help me out there, won't you, Russell? And but he's back here today to help enlighten us about what's going on now? What's next for us? So we'll get to Russell in just a second. April is going to get you up to speed about who Russell is. For those of you watching this for the first time, I do want to remind you, if you haven't already, kindly hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and this way you are aware and notified right away when you get great guests like Russell. And again, don't forget, is if you need that mind, body, spirit reset and you need that lift in your life to help kind of get rid of all that stuff, visit our friends over at hempworks.com and see if they can help you the way that they have us. So thank you very much for that.
Don't forget to join the Telegram group, please, the channel and the chat.
There you go.
And without further ado, okay, ready, everybody? I'm going to give it my best shot because it's a lengthy one. Okay, so if you guys didn't catch the last show when Russell was on, when was that? Let's see.
Before the end of the year.
Was it? That's what I was going to say. November.
October,
I think it was the mid-November, and we have it up on spirituallyraw.live. So go back and check it because you're going to be pretty damn shocked when you hear what Russell had to say back then. Okay, so we have, as Jay mentioned, Russell-J Gould, and he also goes by AKA the Chief. So can we just call you the Chief for the rest of the show?
I'm content with that. Thank you. It's an honor to be on your show.
Thank you. Likewise to have you. Now, he is the self-proclaimed Postmaster General of the entire world, not just of the United States. We're talking the entire globe. He's also the chief judge of the Supreme Court and federal post judge. Russell figured out the secrets to capturing the Title IV flag, which is right behind him, of America over 2 decades ago, becoming the first Postmaster General of the entire planet. Now, there's a whole list of other things that Russell is, but I'm just going to read off just a couple, just for fun, Russell.
Okay.
Russell's also the first creator of the quantum banking system, which is really important. We're going to talk about that today. Also, the Global Monetary Fund, the United States Treasury, the World Central Bank with the correct sentence structure, communication, parse, syntax, grammar of the planet Earth. Good. He's the owner of the Title IV flag.
All right, everybody, join us in
welcome the Chief.
Welcome the Chief back. Welcome the Chief. How are you, Chief?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing this afternoon?
Yeah, good.
Fantastic.
It's good to have
Thank
you back
so
after we get through all this, and I'm glad
Russell's been very busy.
You've been very busy, I imagine. Listen, so you called this. This was going to happen. You laid it out in our last shows there. So,
which is crazy.
Which is
I'm not
going
to lie.
So what happens? What happens next?
Where do we go from here, Russell?
Where do we go from here, Russell?
There's many things to evaluate. First of all, we start with ourselves. We start loving on ourselves. We change the vibration of who we are as people. We know that as we love ourselves, that it vibrates through our osmosis energy around us, and we start loving others. And when we start that faction right there, we start caring. We start looking at our lives in a different construct, and be happy. I've tried to be happy in each moment, right? Each moment of my life, I want to be happy, because you know what? I may be driving down the road and somebody cuts me off, but instead of being angry, I'm going to be happy because I'm not in such a hurry like they are, because I'm content where I'm at with myself in the now. So these are some of the things that we look at when we look at the quantum grammar and some of the constructs that have been created to facilitate your happiness now, and to also learn about full closure and grammar, because it's contract that controls our lives. You know, we hear a lot of talk out here about, you know, common law or statutory law or blah, 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 law. None of that matters. What matters is what are you doing in the contract in your lives, right? And how do we evaluate that contract in your lives? So these are some of the things that were brought to the table in the correct communication, party syntax, grammar, is to control our words now, so that we, as we look at performing in our contracts, from traveling, from transportation to agricultural, maybe you're getting a farm loan, or maybe you're simply just buying insurance. We look at the surety and the value of those words, and we position ourselves within the construct of what we call quantum grammar of the now space. And in that, it has performances and terms for your world now. So it's a fun fundamental, and I don't know where else you guys want to start. But
yeah, no, I want to before we got a lot to cover with you here, but I do want to kind of get in again for those watching for the first time. How do you, when we take a look at the grammar and the way it's properly needs to be laid out for you, who actually set that actual legitimate legal, this is the way grammar needs to be processed and be written, that has not been followed? So who was the actual founders of that layout of that grammar? I hope I'm asking that okay.
Yeah, you're asking great questions. So it's a two-part feel on that. So the first part that I want to make sure that you comprehend is, I had a business partner, and we had shareholder meetings and terms that I had to comply with, and I do comply with. In those terms, my partner was David Winkle and Miller. And he was a man that set out on a world of grammar on his own journey. But I
remember that you talking about him. Yes.
Yeah. And Dave was, he was my business partner for 22 years. It's like a rough relationship. Mm-hmm. You have your ups and your downs. And people make choices, and upon those choices, there's consequences. And so he made choices that I chose at the time not to make. And I'm not going to get into bashing a messenger, because that's not what this is. What my story and my life with Dave was about, right? Because my life with Dave was very personal. We lived together. We worked all the time, nonstop. But I had over 120,000 hours alone just study time with him on grammar. So we started breaking down sentence structure, and there was people helping from all over the world, right? There wasn't just us. We were just a central hub of geniuses that contributed from one sentence or one phrase to another that we learned through the years. So it's a culmination of a lot of people. But the foundation was definitely set by David Winkle and Miller and myself, because I brought him the now space. I put into the life of what he was doing and taught him that everything can be placed in a now space performance, so that we can have closure and terms met now, so there's no subjective interpretation, in which he brought to the table of translation through the math interface on grammar. So it was a great partnership. And he became a witness to me, because I set out on a path to figure out what made business contract move from point A to point B through different jurisdictions and venues around the world. It took me through many doors, and 25 years later, here I am, still the authority on that, even though there's many people copying what I'm doing, but they're kind of a backdrop and not really into the corporate structure of what's been set up for the people.
I got you.
I want to kind of go back to before we were on this, before we started recording. You started telling us, that you knew a lot was going on while it was happening, because of your position in the Supreme Court. Yes. Can we kind of go back to that? Can we start from there?
Yeah. So through my learning of what not to do, coming up through the U.S. judicial system, challenging jurisdiction from 1996. Through 2000, well, all the way to today, but mainly to 2003, we figured out how court systems worked, and I was put through a gauntlet of tests by the U.S. judicial system. The U.S. Marshals know me very well. right? I'm not a secret. Unfortunately, they are hurting people's closure on this story by not coming forward, by not telling the truth about how I honored contract, because they know in their hearts that I changed their lives, literally from beating me up to arguing about having to beat me up to, I had a real difficult and rough and tumbly relationship with the U.S. judicial system. It's very unforgiving. And those dudes are very tough. They get paid to beat people up, and they're real good at it, right? When they're jumping on you 10-on-1 and they're knocking you out, it's a thing, right? You become friends with them because they're questioning, why are we beating up this little guy who's just standing his ground, not creating joinders and whatnot. So fate took me to the U.S. Supreme Court on the first Monday of October 2004, where the Department of Defense, because I had contracts with the United States government earlier on the flag, that's my Title IV flag back there, they opened up a doorway for me to go through the International Chamber of Commerce in Washington, D.C., and the doors opened for me. And, for me, it was a difficult thing because here I am dealing with the heads of the Department of International Chamber of Commerce for the U.S., and they're laughing about America being a verb on the money, right? They're laughing about it. Well, America's a verb. It doesn't exist, but we got to do this stupid thing because Congress is, so I had a different relationship with them than probably the general public because I saw different things behind the scenes than all of you. So, the door opened and I got into the U.S. Supreme Court, where I was able to file a gold coin as a filing fee as Postmaster General and Treasurer of the country, which I had claimed back in 1999 and 2000 when the United States government came out of international bankruptcy and ceased to exist. And part of that ruse that they're playing on from Bush Jr. on their fake presidents is they've created a scenario where they have to safeguard the henhouse, right? They can't let the secret out. We can't tell that there are no guidelines to elect a president because there's no president, but we're just going to play Ken and Barbie here. And of course, the U.S. military is in on it, right? Because they work for the post office. They're all in on it. I mean, if you'd been at the court martialings, and they all were, right? So I have a different. When I speak to you guys, I'm not really speaking to you your audience. I'm speaking to the generals that know me real well, right? Because I was the guy that was there. And I have a different relationship with the U.S. military for many reasons, right? Based upon them sending psychological warfare officers to influence and thwart every business transaction that I had been doing for 11 years, to having them try to make up ruses and guises to try to intimidate me. Right? I'm not intimidated by war because I'm not a person of the war. I'm a person of the love and of the peace. War doesn't have any effect in the now space because it's our ability to communicate. Unfortunately, there are people that have put themselves in position knowing that it's a fraud, knowing my story, covering up, and I'm talking about news channels who you would call, other news agencies in the public sector, who have had my story for years, sit on it, won't bring it forward to the public because they want to act like there's a constitution. Well, I'm sorry. That ended in 1999. And if any of you would have been doing your homework in 1999, you would have stood up for what was right way back then. And you know what? It was hard because you know what? The bad guys knew what I was doing, and then they were physically fleecing and harming me and hurting me because they didn't want the flag to stand. They did not want this day to come. Because now the day's here where now they're moving into the backdrop, right? The wars are now moving in. And that's why we see the military surrounding D.C. right now. It's not because they're worried. They're worried about what's going to happen when people figure this out. Right?
Is that why they still have the fences up, or is there some other reason?
Well, I have no firsthand knowledge of that. I've just been to the fences and I've talked to the guards there because at the back of the U.S. Supreme Court, the fences at the guardhouse shack there. At the clerk's office where they file things, they're there, right? So I've had conversations with those gentlemen for sure. I
want to get to, if I can, because there's a lot to cover here with you. I want to get into you being the Postmaster General of our world. So you hold that title there. So I'm just going to ask you some basic questions here if you can get answered for us. Were you aware of the mail-in voter fraud?
Yes. It was I alerted the Federal Elections Commission in 2012 and 2016. I syntaxed their laws and guidelines. I alerted the U.S. Supreme Court simultaneously, as well as over all Secretary of State's office and elections commissions for all 50 states, as well as Homeland Security, the FBI, the CIA, the Department of Defense, the Air Force. They're all very aware of this.
Is that when that you started getting pretty much abused from them, or when they started following you and tracking you and so forth?
Yeah, well, they would act like they were my friends. So me, I want to give everybody the chance in life, because you know what? I ask for the same out of everyone else. You don't know me. You hear a lot of falsities. You don't know who I am as a person, most people, because they're not in my day-to-day functions. My day-to-day functions, I care and love the people I'm around, and we have a good time. There's no doubt.
I get that part. What do you think? What do you think would have that? Why wasn't there more with you being in that position that wasn't done to prevent that? You think since you reported that back in 2012, 8 years later, nearly 8 years later, with the experience of all that you have there, what do you think happened that there wasn't enough done to be able to prevent it happening again this time in 2020?
Well, it changes. You have to comprehend. It changes the whole function of the money system, right? We're talking about to put me in place does away with everybody's mortgage now, right? Because I have the secrets on how that all works. So we're talking about.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I'm not sure I understood what you just said.
When he gets put in place, meaning that
when you get put in place.
Yeah,
okay.
You're talking about a whole change where you take the yoke off the people. Mm-hmm. They just don't think in those terms. Right, they're in a different spiritual space, right, where they're doing rituals on the cremation of care, where they're thinking, that they inject the blood of these children, and they're going to live forever, ever. That's not how the monoatomics work. And those that have the classified security clearance to know about my monoatomic periodic table, which I'm the only guy to file under national security with different agencies globally. For what they call the Shinana or the Bin Bin or the Highwood Firestone. I don't want to get too carried on, but these people don't have the right to rule because they have lost touch with their source. And that's on them, right? And as the world figures that out, they will backdrop sadly out of the way. But a lot was done on my part, but you got to comprehend.
Is there anything that could have been done differently?
Yeah, here's the one thing that because I was doing it solo and I didn't take any news to coverage on anything. I was just kind of walking in solo. I always, because I've been betrayed a lot in my life by every aspect that's offered to help. I'm learning how to trust again. So I'm learning how to open my heart, and I'm learning how to do that all over again. And so, when you have it closed because you've been betrayed so much, you just kind of, even though you're doing it for the better of everybody, you just don't invite people with you.
We spoke to you, I believe it was in October last year, to get to know you. I think it was
November.
September, October, November. But anyway, it was a few short months ago.
It was before the election.
It was before everything there. Mm-hmm. But you mentioned several times here about being betrayed. May I ask you, is it something happened between when we last spoke to now?
No. It's all good. But it's coming out of a lot of that trauma. And so I'm having to, continually balance myself because I don't want to have hate held up in my cellular body. I want to push the light through my DNA and go, bam, I'm here. I'm happy. This doesn't have to be people, and then you have a lot of people that are patriots in this country, right? That hate the fact that I have the flag, right? That slander me through all these, I don't even hardly know these people that slander me everywhere. And they learned about this like in 2006, 2007, and they would have never learned about the bankruptcy if David and I wouldn't have came out and explained it to the world, right? So it's interesting for me, and so they don't want to do the correct grammar. When I take a stance, right? And the U.S. Marshal Service and the federal judicial system knows this very well about me. That's why they humbly gave me their secrets to become Chief Judge of the U.S. Supreme Court. It was not an easy task. The bar was high. And so when I see people out here selling my federal judgeships, my federal postal judgeships, and selling judgeships, this discredits and allows the discrediting of the honesty that were fought for. There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears on my part, and there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears on other people's part who gave up tremendous sacrifices in their lives. And I honor their sacrifices by being honest to the contracts that I performed now back then. And so it's a humbling road. I love the grammar. I love what it's done for me, but I am cognizant of the sacrifices. And by all these people discrediting, all they're doing is slapping those sacrifices in the face for the people that seriously were damaged by using the correct grammar. And now that people are out here using it and wrong leading people, the governments just love this, right?
Who's actually in control now of the United States of America?
Well, technically I am, but the government does not want accountability at this moment. The U.S. military is not about accountability. Otherwise, they'd have been here. I've been to Peterson Air Force Base over the hill a couple times, ahead of Space Force several times in the last month. These guys are hiding behind their little Ken and Barbie make-believe games that they want to play. They do not want accountability in our lives. They want the hardships. They want the financial yoke, the fear-mongering, the divide and conquer strategy that they have in place out here. It's very masterfully put together. But there are only a few bad guys, and they hide behind paying the military, to keep them safe, right? Keep them out of views of guys like me, because I am looking for characters out here. And when I run into them, my fairness is in the now. And that.
What's your support system that you have? So I want to ask it in this way. Number one,
the people. The people are learning about me. They're learning about the grammar. And then of course they have a lot of questions. Well, this person's doing this person's doing that, and I have to comply with corporate charters that were set up.
Who protects you? So at your level, as the most important person here, that is the leader on the planet at this point in time, from how we understand it, who protects you? So when you go out, and if these official,
his mind,
you can manifestation and controlling your capacity to move your spirit to allow things to enter into your space is a valuable tool. And that's
so you're putting like a force field of energy all around you?
At all times. I have to.
Yeah.
I have to. Even when you sleep, because they have remote viewers. There's a lot of secret games that these guys play out here. There's a lot of spy games that they play. There's no boundary that the U.S. military will not trespass to learn something about anybody in this planet or allow something to happen. It's not only the U.S. military, but it's the militaries on a global level. All those generals, they're all friends. They all get along. They're all in a club. Guess what, people? You're not invited. Guaranteed.
So is it fair to say that you have the whole world in your hands?
I don't look at it like that. I look at it as I've given it to the people to have in their hands to learn how to give.
How can the people get it back in their hands, number one? And number two, if you're in control of the globe, why is this entity sitting somewhere that the media is making believe is the White House?
Correct. Okay, so that's a great question. First of all, the world is finding out about learning how to be sovereign and creating their own sovereign lives to themselves, right? And I've done everything I can to put the closure out there, but I have to do it in a compartmentalized way, because every time that I give, it feels like it is maneuvered in a way that obfuscates the people's capacity to get a solution for their lives. And so that's been very difficult for me, okay? And I don't have a crystal ball when it comes to that. What I can tell you is that the world is controlled by contract, right? Right now, when you move into corporate position, right? Your sovereign position is your comprehension of the God man or the spiritualness the source that you have within you. And that's what I keep saying. We need to learn how to use that for love. We need to learn how to use that for a moral righteousness to our fellow mankind.
I completely get that, and I couldn't agree with you more on that. for those that don't have the titles that you have and the actual power that you have right now, what I really want to drill down to right now is, can you at this point in time, with what you know and what you have available to you as title, can you stop what's happening right now? Can you stop it right now and go ahead and make those firm decisions, go to the Supreme Court? Can you, as the Postmaster General of our world, do you override the Supreme Court?
Yes, I am. If I mailed myself in there and did things correct, the U.S. military, even though they never. Here's what I learned. This is really cool. I learned something on my venture. I thought I knew a lot about filing techniques and being chief judge at the U.S. Supreme Court, but I put a mechanical procedure on them at the Supreme Court that for the first time in the history of the U.S. judicial system, I mean the history of the U.S. judicial system, they stopped in their tracks and they did something right. Now I know what that secret is, right?
What is it?
Well,
Come on, Chief. Come on, Chief.
You've taken us this
Come
far.
on, Chief. We're all friends now,
let
Chief.
it rip.
It deals with the mechanics of space. I'll just leave it at that. It deals with the mechanics of space. Space, correct. And so when I did that, I actually stopped. I made the guards stop. I said, "Stop! Everybody, stop! Do you realize what you just did?" Oh, then they fist because they're afraid. They don't wear masks there. The guards don't wear masks when you're on the other side of the fence. It's different. Anyway, but they give elbow bumps instead of fist bumps, right? So this guy starts elbow bumping me. He says, "You got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. I'm stopping." Now, I've been beat up. I've been starved out. I've been through some wars in the courtrooms. But you're telling me for the first time. So there was a glimmer in that space where it was perfect. Right? They did so. So to answer you, go back. Since I was able to figure that out, yes, I could do that. But would I need people to come in with me with the military? I'm not walking in there without guys with guns and clubs because, look, they have jumped on me in those courthouses and they have beat the living crap out of me. For real. Right?
What do you think about Biden?
Look, he's got no flag. He's got no country. He's got no grammar. He's got no flag, no construct. He's got no authorizations. Tough spot to be in. I'm so sorry for the guy.
What about Trump?
That would be like an awful spot to be in, right? I'm a leader, but I can't write it. I don't have any grammar that makes any sense, so I can't do anything. That's good. Damn, that's gotta be a tough spot to be in. That's gotta be.
What about Trump? What do you think about Trump, Dennis? Did he do you a service?
Well, I didn't get raided by the FBI on his watch, so that was good, right? But I went down to U.S. Secret Service headquarters in Washington D.C. and talked to him because I wanted to go back to work and provide a living for myself. And so that was good because I go with the Obamas. I had a plan to fund the country backstopped by metals, and which I can do, and they know it, right? They've got the FBI hit squads were buying platinum from me, right? So those guys all know, right? But it's just corrupt. It's just, you're just dealing with a lot of corruption. And then they gave my technology to Monsanto, and Monsanto bought all these piles of this dirt that they didn't know what to do with. I could only get like $23 million a ton out of it. Their chemist came in 2 years later and told me they could get $60 million a ton out of it now. And they bought up all the piles on the planet. Monsanto did, because they didn't know what it was, though, right? You have to understand, they're stupid. And so I apologize for saying that.
No worries. So I'm curious, Russell.
Yeah.
Chief. With all of your power.
Yeah.
How does it make you feel that you can't do a goddamn thing with it?
Well, I could go do something, but then when I do, is the public ready for it? I may not.
Yes, I think the public would. Tell us what you would do.
Yeah, what would you do?
And then.
Well, the first thing that needs to be done is
We'd like to share a story. While it may sound fictional, it's very real and happening right now in front of our very eyes. It's called The Great Awakening. Our sisters and brothers that come on Spiritually Raw are doing everything to help expand global consciousness, and in many cases putting everything on the line to share their messages about what's happening around the world for the greater good of humanity, while exposing the truth of the deep state and the dark forces behind it all. We are living in the most unbelievable times. Some may even say biblical, scary for many and yet exhilarating for others. Together we are taking part in getting everyone acclimated to the Great Awakening process and the exciting new discoveries that lie ahead. The sad part is many of our amazing guests are being heavily censored, socially shamed, and outright banned on many platforms for exposing the truth and piercing the veil. By becoming a viewer, you bring your powerful energy towards this global movement of other truth seekers. If you're resonating with our show, please let us know by hitting the like button, sharing, subscribing, turn on the notification, and leave some comments. Together, we will turn the universal key to global harmony and create a unified world. And remember, tune in often, tell all your friends, and most importantly, may all your dreams come true. Thanks, and God bless Patriots worldwide.